And what we've really got is we've got, I think, you got load bearing along this wall.
Right.
You got load bearing along this wall, and then your corridor walls also are load bearing as well. So we've got limits that we can work with within the existing building. And the building is what, 70 years old?
Roughly.
Somewhere around 70 years old. So we've got a number of issues in this building here. Nothing that can't be overcome. And I think some of the budgets that we'll talk about at the end will kind of show you what kind of money we're spending to upgrade what's already here to meet the current demands for another 50 to 70 years. This plan right here just represents, in order to do the renovation that we are proposing to do, the red walls right here are the walls and some of the things that we have to tear out and take down. And then take out all the windows, new roof on the building, and a number of other things.
Yeah, so this is what we've come up with for a renovation of the existing. You'll notice that there's a few different colors on this plan, and those represent the different departments and the grouping of those together for collaboration. And you'll also see in the new construction plan that's kind of the concept of that, is grouping up all these departments together and then surrounded by sort of a central collaboration and core spaces, which we've done here as well, but we're in more of a linear format on this plan using the existing structures. So you've got red as those collaboration core spaces in the center, and then the different departments or colors. You have the superintendents adjacent to this room from a programmatic standpoint, and then the rest of them can be swapped around, but we try to get storage for each of the departments, and you can see too, we try to keep a lot of those load-bearing walls and use that existing structure. And yeah, I would say this is early schematic floor plan of this renovation, but I think it's heading in the right direction.
And we think that this plan right here functions well. It may not function exactly like we wanted the new building to function as it relates to the adjacencies of the different departments, but it does have quite a bit of functionality to it. The plan all along is the warehouse on this side here is going to remain untouched. And then on this scenario, we're leaving everything else like it is. We're having to come in and do some handicap ramping outside of this door for the entry into this space. But it generally functions well. And this is an very early representation of what we might be able to get this building to look like as a renovation. I think there are some ways for us to do what needs to be done. I do want to mention in both of these scenarios, we have not included any site plans. We just literally got the survey back, so we haven't studied the site as it relates to being able to increase the size of the parking lot. With the renovation, you have much less room to increase your parking capacity out here on this site. With the new building, it's a smaller, more compact structure. We have more of an opportunity to add additional parking. So this is roughly a very early rendition of what the building could look like after we went through the renovation, replacing all of the windows, doing the roofs, HVAC, electrical, a little bit of signage, trying to get the Mitchell County purple on the building as much as we can. I think it turned out to be a pretty nice building for what it is. So we're going to shift gears towards new construction. This is basically a tear down of its existing structure minus the warehouse building. That warehouse building is going to remain in both options. It is a more compact and it's a little bit deeper structure than what you currently have right now. And then that lends itself to almost the racetrack type of a design layout where you have kind of a central corridor that you can work back and forth a little bit easier between the departments.
Is that room in this room?
It's a new boardroom.
Okay.
And if you can kind of see the existing boardroom that you have right now is a good bit larger. but it also has these other offices here. Then the new is smaller, more compact, more for really what you need in your boardroom space, and it's more designed to be a boardroom. Where in this scenario for the boardroom, this is where we envision the board residing, and you've got access back here for closed session, so that you can have closed session in a separate room from your existing board space. Okay, I don't know if there's anything else that you want to share with the plan for the layout standpoint, or is it pretty much touched on?
No, I think we did. Yeah, I guess I would just reiterate, it's a 10,000 square foot footprint versus what you currently have, which is
11,500.
Yeah.
You can say that one more time, I apologize.
So this is a 10,000 square foot footprint, whereas what we currently are in is like 11.5. So just by nature of the differences in footprint, you have more parking options or opportunities with this
It's like
layout on the
1,500
side.
square feet.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
It's not that, another two.
It's not that much, no. And then this is our first rendition of what the exterior of the new building would look like. Bringing in some of our ground brick that we have on the new middle school, what you have on the high school, and try to turn this more into a campus environment between all three of the buildings here. Creating a new entry element along the front here, and then a kind of a back of house connector going back to the warehouse here, as opposed to right now this is kind of your front door space over here. So we've reimagined that, and then this gives us more of an opportunity to expand parking on this side over here.
All right, this last sheet is the updated cost estimates. What we've done for everybody's knowledge is this first column here is a trade or work trade description, so it tells you, what trade is in that line item. And then the next column is the renovation, the cost for the renovation. And the third column is cost for new build. And then there's a delta showing the difference on the right side. As you can see, it's pretty close, renovation versus a new build. One thing we want to keep in mind is with everything that's going on right now with tariffs and price increases, we have recommended these two adds on the bottom here just to help cover any unforeseens that we do encounter. But as I said, this would be a pretty overview of really our best guess of working with code and what we see in office buildings this size. Get you to where these numbers come from.
So, Tanner, the renovation cost projection from November is actually higher than what is currently.
Does that include all the?
So that's why I'm asking, what's the difference in that? Because the sheet that you provided for quoted on November 26th, with the total recommended construction budget, including conceptual estimate, design escalation contingency, was 5.754252. This one is showing 5.567253.
So, well, that would be, the differences I would think would be some of the allowances have been reduced, and working with code, we've got a better understanding of the project now.
Yeah, back when that was done, we hadn't put pencil to paper at all for a renovation plan at all. So I think it was just based upon your best guess is what we might be able to do is verbal narratives or written narratives, but it didn't have any plans to go on with it. Here we now have some design plans. Plus, I think we know a little bit more about what the tariffs are doing as opposed to what we did back in November too.
For now.
Well, and after our last meeting, the last time we discussed this, the following Friday, an additional 25% tariff was put on steel, taking it to 50%. So yeah. I apologize for getting you sidetracked. I was looking through the numbers.
The only thing I would say is both of these numbers are still put together based off of those two sketches that you just saw. So they're still very early, preliminary, you know, and we're trying to be conservative on purpose, so that way we, you know, don't over-promise and not deliver. We want to deliver what we say we're going to deliver.
And I know we've thrown a lot of information at you very quickly, so we expect no more questions.
And I thought, yeah.
So the rebuild is more than the renovation.
It is. It's
But
about-
before, wasn't the renovation more than the rebuild? Like, we talked about the renovation being more than the rebuild before, correct?
That was $80,000 difference. So I do come back to a question on the dates you have up there at the top of that sheet. 11/22/2024 for the renovation, 5/20/2025 for the rebuild. But what you're saying is you went through these numbers
Yes, sir.
are not going, so when I look at that renovation number, that's not going back to those prices.
Right, this has been looked at again, and that, sorry, we should have probably gotten rid of that, but that would help keep us straight with all the various.
Good conversation, huh?
This is where we started, and then this new one was the latest rendition of the, new build, if that makes sense.
Before, wasn't the renovation quite a bit more than the rebuild?
No, the renovation was $80,000.
Was it just 80?
Yeah, was the difference between the two.
But now it's changed.
Now,
Now it's 300.
yeah, so now when you're looking at this, there's $389,000 difference between the two.
Right.
Right, yeah, the renovation was always a little bit cheaper,
Mm-hmm.
but, and at that time, we were talking about the new build, because by making it a new build, then you can create some efficiencies like they did, that's why the footprint's a little bit smaller. But these are the most current numbers. And we got an updated floor plate, print to go by for the renovation, so that way we were able to assign a lot more accurate costing to that.
How much shorter is the new building than the old?
Height wise.
What distance it
Or
is?
length wise.
Oh.
The distance of this pretty
Basically, it's 30 to 40 feet difference.
We go back to that wall.
So, okay, yeah. So, this would all be parking.
It's about 30 to 40 feet difference, which can give you, if you double stack parking, that's 8 more parking spaces. If we just do one row, with it being as deep as it is, we have the opportunity to extend this parking along the backside here of the property and really gain quite a bit more space.
So the square footage on the new building is gonna be 1,000 square feet basically less than
15.
the
Yeah, 15.
existing building. And that will then give some more parking spaces.
Yes, please.
Is there gonna be, what is that gonna do to the, I know this had it in my mind, it might be a crazy question. Is there gonna be ample, room in their offices for the personnel? Then is gonna be ample room, you know, for their storage?
For the storage, we've created separate storage areas for each department, but from an office size standpoint,
From an office size standpoint,
they're what, about 150 to 170 square feet per office or so?
Yes, roughly on the new construction.
And a typical office, just a standard office is about 100 square feet. Then kind of an executive office is 175 to 225 square feet. So we think that they're ample size. They're not gonna be nearly as large as what you have right now. These are huge offices, and they're really sized enough for 4 or 5 people to be in if they choose to. No, you don't. Did that answer your question, Mr. Buckles?
Yeah, pretty well. I always, I look, the folks that work out here, and I wanna make sure that they're comfortable in their quarters. That they're not overcrowded. There's ample space for them to keep their records. And, I mean, well, I don't know, I don't know if I'm being called asking that way, but I know what size they are now. And I haven't had a chance to talk to each one, you know, and asking them, you know, how you feel about your space? And, that was basically my question.
Either plan's gonna give equal space to every employee. So some people will have bigger offices.
Yeah.
Some currently have 2 small offices now. Some have 2 big offices now. We don't need couches, we don't need stuff like that in offices, we need the office here.
Is the extra parking, if we tear this down, worth what, could we just leave this part right here?
How many spaces are you looking at?
Yeah, because this is nice.
We haven't done a new site plan yet, because we literally just got the survey, so I don't know exactly how many new spaces we're going to be able to get.
Well, could we leave this on the end of the,
This building here on the end?
Well, that's where you're looking at a renovation versus a rebuild.
Right.
Yeah. So if you went with a renovation, then you're going to go in and, as they were showing the non-load bearing walls, you're going to take down, reconfigure that, as Mr. Calhoun was stating, as far as getting the office space to accommodate where you don't have the large and the small is more equal in that regard. Whereas with a rebuild, you're going to basically demo everything from the warehouse down this way, and then
but
go
if
back.
you left this, it would be just extra. It's here,
So that's where you're looking at renovation versus rebuild.
not really.
As far as I think what you're talking about here is
She's what we're looking
leave this piece here, tear this out,
at. No,
and then
put the
add
new part in the middle.
this piece
saying.
back in the
Yeah.
middle.
That's what he's saying.
Right. So if we did that, then this existing is over here.
Yes.
So we would end up having to keep the square footage like we have it, squeeze it down and stretch it out, or add additional square footage to connect to this other.
So you would have to add some to connect.
We would, because
Okay.
it's shorter. Are these aligned on these drawings? It's gonna be so hard to tell. But we're maybe 30 feet further over here with this
Okay.
existing space.
Okay.
So we would end up either having to squeeze it, stretch it, and then we would lose some of this racetrack, or leave this like it is and have more of a connector to get to the existing.
So,
And from a cost and an efficiency standpoint, if you wanted to keep this room we're in, you're better off leaving it.
Right.
You're better off renovating what you got.
I'm not in love with this room. I was just wondering if that new building would fit between here and that warehouse, but it won't.
It will, but we gotta stretch it.
Right.
And then from a constructability
It
standpoint, you're
makes it tougher.
bookending the construction,
Yeah.
leaving 2 existing pieces and trying to build new and connecting the dots. Makes it a little more difficult. I don't want to put words in their mouths.
No, you're exactly right, yeah, from an efficiency standpoint and a cost thing. If that's the case, you'd be better off sticking with the renovation. So that way you've got the bigger floor plate and we can just change the walls inside that floor.
And have
If you wanted that, that's.
Is it, okay, let me see, is it, the parking situation as far as that goes, would that take, would more, if there's more parking that's gonna come in, and then there's gonna be less office space, is there that much of a need for y'all to have more parking out here?
I can speak for that.
Yes.
Yes.
Because when we had graduation, 8th grade graduation up here, it was a nightmare. To get everybody in, you know. I mean, it wasn't a nightmare, I take that back. But it was not really good. There was a lot of, you know, trying to find places and getting on time. We actually started late, so everybody could get
Well, and it's a side point, but even with high school graduation, it's important to have conversations and make sure everybody's on the same page, because we had the wrestling camp going on the same night as graduation, and that created a major traffic jam too. So
Well, that's a whole other
that's a different conversation,
But that's why I was asking about, you know, a rough idea of the number of parking spaces. That was what I had in mind when I asked that question.
I do wish that we had enough time to develop a site plan, but that's something that we can definitely do very quickly, maybe in the next couple of weeks, to have a site plan to show you all if we did decide to go with the renovation option and what we think we might be able to do. But it's a little premature for us to be able to give you a good concrete answer on what it is.
Are both those, the renovation and the new construction sketches drawn on the same scale? Even though
They
should be.
yes.
Okay, so when I'm looking at the new construction there, it looks like you're bringing in this back wall, insetting it a little bit, but then also you're coming out deeper. So would you lose any of these parking spaces here? How much room is going out into the landscape grass, out into the asphalt with that new build? Does that make sense?
How much farther out is it coming back?
Yeah.
Then where it is right now, how much farther out would it be?
Because it looks pretty drastic when you compare the two side by side.
It's pretty much in line with the front of the warehouse.
Yeah.
Is this new addition.
So you would be
So
looking at about,
You'd lose a lot of
15 or
landscaping
20
in
feet.
front that you have.
Would you lose any of
Looks
the
like a
asphalt?
landscape.
Do you think we'd lose the asphalt up front with where we are?
I don't think so. I think it comes kind of right up to the edge of it, but it's still just double loaded out there. I think you could, shrink the space between. You'd still get the same number of parking spots.
Your drive aisle in between your parking spots is not real, it's bigger than it needs to be.
Mhm.
You can get by with 24 feet for a 2-lane drive aisle, where now it's probably much more than that. And your parking spaces are probably a little bit larger than what we can do.
Okay.
So when we reconfigure that, we'll probably have to do some repaving out there if we don't
Yeah.
do anything else. One, construction can tear it up.
Yeah.
And two, it gives us an opportunity to make it more efficient than what it is right now.
And repairing some of the existing,
Mhm.
depths and humps, out there.
So the way to get more parking is to use the new bid.
To gain the parking use.
To be the most efficient at gaining the most amount of parking is a new build. We still think that we have an opportunity in the renovation to reconfigure what's out here, do a little bit on the sides, and be able to get you more parking than you have now, but probably not. It won't be as much.
Is there any availability on the back side of the building to add parking to? You guys may know this better.
And not really behind it, no.
No.
Not really.
Over here.
Over here is where we think we can add it. Especially if we lose 30 feet of building, we have an opportunity to gain some parking along this
I
side.
know where your temporary office is over here in the floodplain, but is there any possibility of putting parking there?
We went down that route with the DOT, and the DOT did not want any more entrances onto this road. Us and Kevin had a meeting out there with them, and that was their conclusion, that there was too many entrances already on Ledger School.
So that's another, since you mentioned DOT, conversation as well, because my understanding is they're working on a project of a sidewalk going up on this side of the highway too. I'm not sure how much right of way they're gonna take with that, if that will impede. I don't think it would impede the parking area out there really.
It will not.
Okay.
Is there any way would they consider letting you use the entrance to the middle school and then, weave it down to another parking spot?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking
I don't think you can do that without crossing the wetlands area.
Okay.
That's your problem.
Yeah,
Is you got your streams and your wetlands right there that we're having to work around, and I don't think we can connect those down.
Okay.
You could, but I don't think you wanna.
No.
Or that. Yeah.
No, you were right to
Yeah.
begin with. We can't.
It's not a matter of gravel.
So, I believe, the budget we're working with this is, on that grant, 5.7 million, is that correct?
That's what it was.
The cost of interest on that, that haven't
And at least from a design standpoint, it's gonna be our target to hit that. We're so early in the process, and I think Benoit is just saying, this is how much it costs today. So if we know what our target is, we're going to refine and get to where we need to be.
The other part that, just like you were talking earlier, just the cost and not knowing where materials are going and that type of thing, and it's not slow, steady increases, sometimes it's overnight. Well, a shock and a wake-up call, and I know, with what was presented earlier, I mean, even as we make a decision, we make a decision now, it's gonna take, I forget the exact time frame. I have to go back and look, but a couple of months to get to the point where you can start accepting bids and get locked in on those prices. So that's a key piece of it too. That's when you're looking at the renovation, if you don't care to go back to that slide for just a moment, or the price comparison, that's what I'm looking at. Yeah, the side by side. It's a little hard to see on the screen, but when you start looking at that, would there be the possibility of doing renovation the way this is going to be structured to say, okay, here's our top priorities, and then if something happens to where price skyrocketed for some reason, they'll say, okay, well, we can, and talk to Tanner just a little bit about this, but then find, like, first of all, I think we mentioned about foundation, and then the boiler and that system, windows, and saying, okay, here's what we focus on, that type of thing. Is that a reasonable approach to that?
With the renovation.
With the renovation.
I would believe if, the world falls down and we look at drastic price increases, I think if you have the renovation, you can scale back the scope as needed to account for the budget that is available. And, have a priority list, as you said, make sure you get those addressed.
And you're also eliminating a lot of the most volatile pieces from a costing perspective. So like the structural steel, like you said, if steel goes up 50% more, well, no offense, if all you're doing is renovating this existing building, most of your steel is in metal studs. It's not a whole new,
The trusses
80-ton structure, right? So you're taking some of that risk off. I'm not saying all of it, but you're taking some of that risk off.
And just from my standpoint, that's what I'm trying to look at, is minimizing that. I mean, we're coming through 1,000-year storm, whatever you want to call it, and budgets are tight. We're blessed tremendously to have had the opportunity, and I think both of your companies working together and having the new school, and that was a blessing, and to be able to have that completed before the storm hit. But as we're moving through this, knowing that, we're still in a community that is greatly suffering, many people still without homes, and trying to see what is the most physically responsible decision as well with that.
So you're saying that with the renovation, there's less of a chance to overrun the budget if everything.
The only you've got the unforeseen related to, tearing down these walls and seeing what's in there. But yeah, I would think so, generally speaking, and I would think that it also gives you a better chance. You keep up a larger floor plate, so you've got a little more flexibility in that room to do it. You also got a masonry building, so it's something that's going to be there. It's substantial, right? I mean, it's been here this long. I mean, there's a good chance if we do the right things with the maintenance and put the roof, put the windows in it, upgrade the mechanical and electrical systems, there's a really good chance it's here for another 50, 60 years. So there are
is running into something unforeseen if we renovate this building.
100%.
There's gonna be some.
That,
Sure is.
Yeah.
Every renovation project has its share surprises. You just don't know what it's gonna be.
and we could run into something horrible.
You could.
Well, you can run into unforeseen things on a new site build too. We been there and soil and that type of thing.
And in the building, it's more site related.
Yeah, yeah,
Where here, you know, what happens when we tear this building down, what's underneath here?
yeah.
They're just, it's so much of an unknown that you
Yeah.
really don't know.
Yeah, the site prep is a big part on the new build.
But one of the things I'm looking at right now, for the rebuild, you're looking at 5.5 million. For the new build, it'd be 5.9. Our grant is for 5.7. You're looking at $250,000 over.
But they said we probably made that much in interest. Holding on to it.
What?
The interest we've been drawing off that 5.7 will probably cover the,
Okay.
And-
That's no problem.
Yeah, and there is some contingency that they're showing in there to give us that little bit of cushion as well. But like I say, as you're speaking now, and I'm like-minded in, that 5.5 and the renovation gives me more comfort and more, or I'll say it this way, less sleepless nights wondering, what struggles you all may be facing trying to accommodate within that budget. Any other?
One unforeseen thing in a wall, in the, whatever, you get into renovation problems, and you open up something that's a can of worms, that could eat up that.
That's also what he said, if they tear this down, and once they see what's under here, it can be that also. Correct?
That's right.
I mean, that's 6 of one, half a dozen of another, when you're looking at that.
But then we don't get any more parking. Maybe a little more parking.
And I think that needs more investigation, to be honest. And that's what Jim's saying, we just got the survey, so there's homework on that, on parking, both from a new build or a renovation piece that still to be done, if I said that right.
It is. I think generally though, with the new build, you'll have the opportunity to gain more parking than with the renovation.
Anytime you're working with a clean slate, it gives you that little bit more freedom.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
So, any other questions on rebuild versus renovation? I will ask if we have, a motion from the board, to go one way or the other. What we have before us is, central office complex plan to rebuild or remodel. So, I will ask if we have a motion either to rebuild or a motion to remodel.
I would still like to see how many parking places we're gonna get. I know that's throwing it off again. But
just wait for
how much-
prices to go up.
I know, but I mean, that's a question. I mean, we're gonna gain, is it gonna be worth?
I make a motion to rebuild.
Let me back up and just make sure I get my ducks in a row. Was you putting yours forth as a motion now? To table it? Or was that just a comment?
I would wanna see, I mean, just me personally, I'd wanna see how much benefit it's gonna be, because if it's gonna be, you know, if we're gonna gain 30, 40 spaces, yeah, absolutely, you know, that would help, but I mean, if we're only gonna gain 10 spaces, I mean, it doesn't seem like that much difference. And in the long run with me, I tend more toward the renovation because of what we do know is here. I know there's things that we don't know, but, and we can adjust as we go. And I mean, if we get into more terrace and this, that, and the other, and still goes through the roof even more than 50%, we can adjust more with the renovation renovation than we can the new build, am I correct?
So
You
what
have the
if
square
we,
footage.
what if we renovate this thing and run into something wrong? And we don't have the money to do it?
We're already.
I know, but I think there's a much bigger chance of running into a major problem in this building.
What major problems, do y'all see any major problems?
And they've
as of
already
now?
said
And I
that.
know there's things that you can't predict, you know, I understand that. I've got an old house, I know.
We've got a basement here with the door. We've got hazardous materials.
Would you start again? I didn't hear what you said.
There's a basement here with an old boiler. There's hazardous materials throughout the building. I don't know that there's a lot of structural deficiencies with the building. I think there were a few.
Yeah, just a few
Some
things.
cracking.
Yeah, that can be right out here as well. For example, it's probably an issue.
What is it? Is it asbestos?
No, it's just the concrete's
Oh.
falling apart.
So there is asbestos inside the building.
Yes. And that's taken into consideration, remediation on that.
Right. Our best guess at it right now, we know that it's in here, but we're still working through getting a final updated report everywhere.
Well, it's gonna have to be disposed of, whether it's a remodel or a tear down, either way.
You're right.
The asbestos is gonna happen no matter what. And some of the other hazardous materials. Some of it's relating to,
I think if you go back and you talk about, you know, what Alan was saying right there on your renovations, you're not gonna overspend. You talk about renovations, you get into something and it costs such, you're gonna have that taken care of.
Yeah, you just leave it out.
You're gonna have,
Now
it-
we
you're
don't
gonna
even
have
know
it
what
taken
we
care
want.
of, you're gonna have that taken care of, though, Brenda. The cost of it and everything before you jump in and go something else.
Now,
Huh?
now.
Well, that's like I said, you take one step at a time.
But then you get to the end and spend all our money and then finish.
No, you're not gonna spend all the money on renovations.
We will if we run into something. Bad.
Well, I would say the only good thing about the delivery system that we're doing, I mean, you're gonna know as soon as we know. The goal is we're gonna stay on top of that, and you're gonna know as we go if we're running into something like that. And then we can back up and make decisions if we need to. Let's shell this portion off, or not do this portion of the renovation. But that's really, that's a big part of what our job is to
Well, that's what
monitor.
I'm worried about.
Stay on top
We
of those
say,
things.
oh, we've run into this, we're not gonna be able to do this. Well, then, we don't get all our renovations. We're gonna have to leave off some of it.
But then we'd let you start seeking funding to be able to complete that,
Complete.
yeah, rather than,
You mean we'd have to go look for more money?
Yeah.
Well,
But I think some of this
Unless you want to-
ends up, when we get the final report for the abatement, that's gonna help us tell us if we're in line, out of line. My point is, you're gonna know long before it's a end of the job and, oh, look, we didn't finish 20% of it, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
I know
But you-
that may not help 100%, but I mean, I hope that helps from a, we're gonna be open and transparent and talk about it all the way through, so just like other projects, that way we don't get down to the end of this thing and then
well, it's
there's
just like,
an issue. And that happens on whether it's new build or whether that's renovation. I mean, end of the day, I want you to have whatever, we want you to have whatever fits y'all's comfort level, budget, and what you see best for the school system.
and what that could mean is just some of the finished materials being maybe not, and I'm just, may not be granite, may be, yeah, you know, something like that, that type of thing and then that stuff, folks, you can go back and replace when you have the funding and you want to make it nicer, you have an opportunity. So with what you're saying and to bring it, the functionality of it would still be there. It may not be all the luxury, that would be nice to have, on this.
Yeah, just from an overall budget perspective, we're spending more money on this existing building to upgrade than you would if you were starting new. Like your HVAC systems, your plumbing systems, your electrical systems. We end up having to come in and tear out and retrofit and redo condition.
That's what I
So
remember.
that's
I
kind of
remember
the
something
difference
like
here,
that. I didn't
right.
remember exactly what you said.
Right.
So we're spending money to redo what's already here. If we renovate, we're spending extra money to redo old systems and replace them.
Well, they change out those systems.
To
and-
replace.
Right, the change in the man.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And then we don't know what's underneath our roof covering up here. You know, those are always some big unknowns when we start tearing into the existing structural elements as to what's really there. Because it's all hidden right now. We've done the best we could to peek our heads around and get into those concealed spaces to get a good feel for it. And we think we have a pretty good feel, but renovations there's always surprises.
Yeah. So coming back, Alan, did you have a motion on tabling that to get more of a site plan and allow Coke to have some time on the site plan with the parking spaces?
No.
Okay. So then Brenda, your motion was to put forth a motion to rebuild. Or to build and to tear down, let me just clarify, to tear down from the warehouse this way and to go with the new build, new construction.
Well, let me clarify that. I think with the rebuild, we're starting with new things. We're not redoing old things. We're more sure of what we're gonna get, what we're gonna find, what we're gonna have. We'll have more parking. And I make the motion for Mitchell County to rebuild this.
Okay. So we have a motion from Ms. Sparks to move forward with the rebuild, which would be tearing down from the warehouse this direction and to go with the new construction. Do I have a second for that?
Second.
All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. Aye. So with that, then the other option is a renovation. Do I have a motion for renovation of the current building?
I'll make the motion.
Have a second?
I say.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed by like sign. So the motion carries for renovation of the central office. So we'll ask you to move forward with the renovation project. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time today. Thank you.
Item B is the board calendar. Ask y'all to approve the board calendar. It's on the third Thursday, 7th.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Have a second?
It's
You
online.
want to see?
Oh,
We can pass it down to Brenda too so she can look at it.
they're on Thursdays.
What was your question?
Only thing with mine is I'm gonna be, I have a volleyball girl on mine, and I know that's,
Thank you all.
and that's Tuesdays and
Thank you.
Thursdays.
Thank you.
Is that Tuesdays and Thursdays, Jennifer?
Yeah, it's usually Monday and Tuesday, or Tuesday and Thursday. Yeah.
Well, you're asking when the new, if that's all right for the meeting?
Yes, if that's all right for the meetings. And if there is something that comes up in the majority board, we can always adjust as we usually do if we need to. Something unforeseen.
I say yes. I don't know of anything wrong with that. Except I have to have a tooth pulled that time.
All right, we've got a motion to approve. We have a second
On the calendar.
on the calendar.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Okay, item C, I put a copy is from Mr. Buchanan, Mr. Buchanan, his prayer certification, set of assurances. I said y'all approve that, something we do every year.
Any questions on North Carolina prayer certification, single set of assurances? If not, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make such a motion.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Hudson.
I'll try to be brief. I know in the essence of time, some of you had different obligations that you needed to go through, or to go to the athletic complex. Right now, the only holdup we have on it is some of the materials that are ordered. We're trying to get those in. There's been some delays in shipping, but also getting in our heating and air system so that we can regulate the temperature of the building. So that when we get our gym floor in, it has to sit in that space because it's a wood floor, and get used to that space. That installation of the gym floor is going to take about 6 weeks. And that'll be the final line item on the list of things to complete. So right now, best case scenario, we're looking at probably September 1 to September 5. I've been reminded multiple times by the groups that they've missed 58 days of work due to weather between the hurricane and then the wet weather from this spring. They're going to do their best to try to have that facility open and going by September 15th, for sure. But they just want to keep reminding me that if they run into any hiccups here in July and August, that they have not requested any extensions, but they have made us very aware of the number of days they've missed just due to weather. So I want to make sure everybody's aware of that. We hope to be in by September 1. That's a perfect world. But obviously, even looking at our short-term forecast, there's still a lot of rain coming. With that said, if you've not been up and seen it, we do have almost every window in now. The painting is done on the inside. You can actually see some of the facilities starting to develop. It looks really nice, so we're excited about that. The capital projects update, item B. I want to let you know that this June has been incredible. Our guys have worked to get a lot done on every campus. We're really excited. The ceiling tile project at the high school is complete. We were able to redo all the ceiling tile in the main hallways in the foyer of the high school, which was more than needed. We did paint the tracking black, and we did an offset of black and white, which looks really nice up there, with a little higher grade of ceiling tile, which was also nice. We have several items that are important. We have a large pothole in the bus parking lot at the high school that has gotten worse through the disaster, and that has sunk. We hope to have it fixed within 2 weeks. There's probably 17 to 20 projects right now going on, so I hate to go through every one of them with you, but I'm happy to email you any, if you want to see the list of projects that we have being completed, from doorways to windows to different things on every campus. One highlight I think for the summer is going to be a little bit of a facelift to the high school on the sidewalks going in. The sidewalks going into the high school will be treated, redone, and then covered with a resurfacing material, which will look like some of what you've seen with the epoxy floors with the sprinkle. But it's a product that's got a 15-year warranty on it. They'll recoat those and give the high school a little bit of a black, white, purple look when you walk in on the sidewalks, which is going to look really nice.
And that's going to go where?
That'll be in the horseshoe in front through the parking lot, that sidewalk that goes all the way around. There's a lot of big cracks and a lot of damage on that sidewalk. They're going to take that sidewalk down a couple inches and recover it to give us a nicer look at the high school.
And what color will that be?
It'll be a mixture. It almost looks like the sprinkle that you put on an epoxy floor, and there'll be some blacks, whites, browns, and purples in that. Also, a couple things that we're trying to get done right now is for safety. We have some doorways that need to be fixed. For example, at the high school, doorways going into the gym, the bullions that are in the middle, some of those are damaged where they've been jerked open for so many years. And let's be honest, that's how people get into most gymnasiums across America. They jerk on the door hard enough until it finally opens up. We are getting those replaced this year, and we're excited about that. At the new school, we do have wall protectant going up on all the hallways and the bathrooms. Because of the solid sheetrock, we had a lot of damage this year to the sheetrock with just kids being in the hallways. And so to protect that, Tanner's worked with us, and we are using contingency to be able to pay for a sheeting that goes over the hallways. It is up if you haven't been to the school lately. We have the top floors done, and Jason's starting this week with a